What if everything you've ever heard about Japanese homes was completely wrong? For years, the story has been the same: small, cramped, and way too expensive. You'd never guess the truth. But we found places that blow that idea out of the water. Homes with real space, good quality, and prices you won't believe. It's a secret that changes the whole game for living well in Japan. Yeah, that's the story we all hear, isn't it? That Japanese houses are basically these tiny, cramped boxes that cost a fortune. And look, if you're comparing them to the average American home, it's kinda true. An American house is often double the size, so no wonder they look small. But that's where the story usually stops. And it's not the whole picture. Someone was browsing a Japanese real estate site, and what they found changes everything. They saw tons of houses in the suburbs, usually between 90 and 110 square meters, going for around $200,000. Now, this person was from the UK. To them, these Japanese houses were actually bigger and cheaper than what they were used to back home. It just shows that tiny and expensive really depends on where you're standing. So, let's go find out what's really out there. So let's break this down. First, the whole tiny thing. Where does that even come from? Mostly, it's people comparing them to giant American houses. The average home in the US is over 2,500 square feet. Of course, a Japanese house looks small next to that. But if you look at the actual numbers, the average Japanese home is about 95 square meters, or a bit over 1,000 square feet. For a huge part of the world, that's a perfectly normal, even spacious, size for a house. Now, Japan does have a lot of people and not a lot of land, so they have to be smart about building. But this has made them incredibly creative with design. They are masters of making a space feel bigger than it is. Rooms often have more than one job, with sliding walls called fusuma that can totally change a layout. Storage is clever and built in, so there's no wasted space. Because the design is so efficient, these homes don't feel cramped at all. In fact, a common, comfortable size for a family of 4 is around 132 square meters, or 1,400 square feet. They just get there by building up, with 2 or 3 stories, instead of sprawling outwards. Okay, so they're not all tiny. But what about that expensive myth? This is where things get really interesting. Those suburban houses we mentioned before, going for around $200,000? That's the key. Now, let's be real. You're not getting that price in downtown Tokyo. Those deals are usually in the suburbs or a bit further out. We don't have perfect data for every single mid-sized city. But here's the thing. For that person from the UK, these homes weren't just bigger than what they were used to, they were cheaper. It completely flips the script. The idea that all Japanese homes are expensive really just depends on what you're comparing them to. For many, it's actually the opposite. So let's get specific. What does this kind of deal actually look like on the ground? If you go browsing on Japanese real estate sites, you start to see a pattern, especially in the suburbs of mid-sized cities. You'll find house after house in the range of 90 to 110 square meters. And the price tag? Very often, it's sitting right around $200,000. That's the sweet spot. It's a comfortable, modern, often brand new home with enough space for a family. And again, for a lot of people outside of America, 1,000 square feet isn't just normal, it can feel pretty spacious. It all just depends on what you're used to. But the price and size are only half the story. The really surprising part for many people is the quality. There's a different way of thinking about houses in Japan. Historically, there's this idea of impermanence. Homes weren't necessarily built like stone fortresses to be passed down for generations. They were often made of wood, designed to be practical, and eventually replaced. You might think that means they're flimsy or poorly made, but it's the exact opposite. Even with that philosophy, the level of craftsmanship and attention to detail is off the charts. Today's homes use modern materials like steel and concrete, but that focus on quality is still there. It's just aimed at something different. The goal isn't always to build something that will stand for 200 years. It's to build a home that is incredibly well designed, uses every inch of space perfectly, and is a fantastic place to live for the next few decades. And for that $200,000 price tag, you're not just getting a box. You're getting a home where every detail has been thought through. That's the reality that gets totally lost in the tiny and expensive myth. But this is where it gets really clever. The feeling of space in a Japanese home isn't an accident. It's the result of some incredibly smart design. It starts with a completely different idea of what a room, is even for. See, instead of having a separate, dedicated room for every single activity, many Japanese homes are built around flexible spaces. One single room can completely change its job throughout the day. It might be a living room for relaxing in the afternoon, then a dining room when you set out a low table for dinner, and finally a bedroom when you roll out a futon to sleep. It's less about having lots of rooms and more about having one room that can do lots of things. The secret to this is often the use of fusuma, these lightweight sliding panels that act as walls. You can slide them open to connect two rooms, creating a huge, open area for when you have family over. Or you can even take them out entirely. It's not a chore. It's more like a daily ritual that lets you shape your home to fit your life, moment by moment. Of course, for a room to do all that, you can't have clutter everywhere. So where does all the stuff go? This brings us to the next principle. They are absolute masters of storage. It's not just a few closets here and there. Storage is built into the very bones of the house. You'll find clever cabinets hidden under floors, sleek closets that disappear into walls, and every single awkward corner turned into a useful space. Nothing is wasted. And finally, it all comes down to scale. The furniture, the appliances, everything is designed to fit the space, not fight with it. This is also where a simple physical reality comes into play. On average, Japanese people are a bit shorter than people in many Western countries. So lower ceilings and more compact spaces just naturally feel different. They don't feel as cramped. When you put it all together, the multi-use rooms, the hidden storage, and that perfect sense of proportion, you get a home that feels open, calm, and way bigger than the numbers on a blueprint would suggest. So what's the real story here? It turns out that everything we thought about Japanese homes, that they're cramped little boxes and cost a fortune, simply isn't true for a lot of people. We've seen how many homes offer serious space, way more than you'd imagine, at prices that are surprisingly good. It's not just about the numbers either, it's how they use every single inch. These homes aren't small because of bad design, they're clever. They make the most of every space with smart ideas and flexible rooms. And the quality? It's built right into the house, using amazing materials and craftsmanship. So, this idea that you can't get a quality home with real space in Japan at a decent price? That's a myth, completely busted. We started this journey asking if everything you've heard was wrong. Now you know the truth. Don't miss out on more hidden realities like this. Stick with us, and you'll always be the first to uncover what's really going on.